Okay, well, hello everybody. My name is Ken Coles, Executive Director of Farming Smarter, and I'm pretty excited today to be chatting with you, my friend, Dr. Jan Slaski with Alberta Innotech in Vegreville, Alberta. And for those of you that don't know, Jan and I have been working on hemp together for about 8 or 9 years. And how many years have you been working on hemp since you came to Canada?
20
years now. But it must be pretty exciting finally this hemp industry has taken off.
Yes, absolutely. So for very many years, people were asking me, just like, why are you working with a crop that doesn't exist? Statistically speaking, it doesn't exist. So it was a long journey. As I said, I'm starting a 20th year this season, this summer. And I witnessed and contributed to a development of hemp industry, as we know, in Alberta and in Canada. So, and almost half of this journey was with you, Ken, and then why we started collaborating. Remember, just like I was doing lots of research, or all research, at the Vegreville side in central Alberta. But this crop has an opportunity, or offers a great plasticity. Can be grown in different soil and climatic zones of Alberta. I have a grower in northern Sweden, close to just a few miles south of the polar circle. So it speaks to the plasticity of this crop. So that's why we needed more than one Vegreville site. We needed you and your team in Lethbridge, in Falaise, and now we have sites across Alberta and across Canada.
Yeah, when I first learned about hemp and you and the work that you did, I was quite interested. Of course, Farming Smarter, even before I started, had a novel crops program. And I think that's something that the innovative farmer is always looking for, something different, something to add diversity to his rotation. Also something that will give him an edge in a niche, or her, an opportunity to make more money beyond the, say, commodity crops. And, you've always been very great at telling the story of hemp and the changes that it went through. But, what I really want to talk about is the fact, it's not marijuana. It's a low THC version of that plant. And you like to call it industrial hemp. But what really excites me about hemp is the fact that it has so many different uses. And then with that, there's so many different agronomic practices that are targeted for each end use. So, like you said, it'll grow anywhere and everywhere. But at the same time, it's very delicate. It's very, there's a lot of intricacies to growing hemp. So when I first started, the industry that was going on here in southern Alberta, they were seeding it quite late, after May, sometimes into June. And our first project that we worked together, thanks to the Acid F program, and I was always amazed, like, we have this amazing new potential crop, this triple threat crop, but nobody's investing in it. And I think because of our partnership, we generated enough interest that the funders would actually put some money towards that. So, let's maybe talk about that first 3-year round of agronomy work that we did and what we learned. And what really, like, for me, the highlight was the fact that everybody was planting hemp late. And then so we had our seeding date project, and in the end, we realized, there's a huge benefit to planting it earlier than we expected, and especially when you're starting to target those biomass type end uses. Like, the earlier we seed it, the more biomass we're getting. So we're breaking these sort of stigmas by doing the science. So what do you think about, like, what our main learnings was from that first project?
Absolutely, you're absolutely right. So before I just answer your question, I would add that when we started this 7-8 years ago, at that time, hemp was grown in Canada, or was allowed to be grown in Canada, only for 2 uses, for grain and for fiber. At that time, all leaves, flowers, chaff had to stay in the field and decay in the field. So effective 2018, with the new Cannabis Act, allowed for whole crop utilization. It was not only legalization of recreational marijuana, but what was the most important for me as a hemp researcher, that hemp industry can utilize whole crop, including flowers, including chaff. Why so? Of course, for CBD and other non-narcotic cannabinoids. So now, a step back, when we started, yes, hemp was legalized in 1998 here in Canada. as a crop to be grown under a license from Health Canada. So at that time, and for 20 plus years, hemp was grown exclusively for grain. So that's why your point, you made a very good point, Ken, that this grain type varieties, usage type varieties, as I call them, they are short or very short, and they can tolerate a late seeding. Moreover, some growers who didn't care about the hemp straw, they delayed planting of hemp for grain till mid-June, knowing that they will get less straw. It will be some impact on yield of grain, but it will be compensated by a lower straw biomass yield, straw yields that they didn't have to take care of. And mind you, as you know, just like a hemp straw, it doesn't decompose really easily. It is a pain in the neck for some growers, to the point that less a problem, or just like a management style in Alberta, but in Manitoba, lots of hemp straw after grain harvest is being burned, which is totally just like a environmentally unfriendly and soil unfriendly soil management. So yes, so for the grain type varieties, and this is what you're just like alluding to, grain type varieties, they can tolerate, and as I said, and sometimes it is beneficial to grow them later, to the point in my 20 years career, I have a grower in central Alberta who reseeded hemp that was damaged by hail in around Canada Day. The hemp for grain was reseeded, listen to that, on July 16th. July 16th. Can you imagine a crop that you can seed on July 16th in central Alberta? I visited this field, and it was like almost 1,000 acres. End of August, hemp started setting seeds, and the farmer successfully harvested grain in October. Of course, grain yields were lower.
So but because it's light sensitive, it knows that.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and of course you need like less heat units and you name it. So but this is so that this plasticity of hemp for grain is enormous. However, you made an excellent point that just like the second usage type is or a revenue stream, as I call it, is hemp for fiber. So that's what you were talking about. That's what our early research revealed, that when we delay till mid-June, from mid-May or early May, there's a huge impact on biomass, on straw yield. And this is just like you remember, it was evident at your site, was evident at the Vegreville site, and was also really well pronounced in the north. The difference was up to 30% in biomass between early seeded and late seeded. So our recommendation is, just like if you're just targeting straw or just hemp grown for fiber or for dual purpose, plant as early as feasible. Perhaps not in March, although as you started, who knows? Just like perhaps I bet that if you
seeding trial, that might be the next phase of the studies, eh?
Absolutely. I'm telling you, I have anecdotal information, not seeded plots, but plots. As I said, volunteer hemp that grows and germinates and survives all frost in the spring.
So in the early days, then everybody was focused on grain. Yes, we knew that there was this market opportunity in the fibers, and it's being more developed in Europe, but because of the legislation, it was basically a waste product. And on the flip side, if we could avoid having all of that biomass running through our combines and lighting them on fire and such, nobody wanted the straw. So the big change now has been the legislation changes. It's 2018, you said. The other side of our study, though, even at that time, because I know you were preemptively working on it, was this idea of a dual purpose variety and how that sort of plays into both marketplaces with both the grain and the fiber. So maybe talk a little bit about that and how those varieties and what we've learned on the agronomy package side of things to be able to hit, say, both marketplaces.
Yes, absolutely. So remember, just what our study revealed, that this so-called dual purpose varieties, like a good example could be an X59, CRS1, CRS2. They are just like a medium tall, varieties. So for very many years, they served as a source of fiber for those who tried to develop fiber-based products. We are processing these varieties, this dual purpose at Vegreville for Bast and Herd. And what we found, what our studies revealed, that these dual purpose varieties, X59 in particular, was the best in terms of grain yield. Mm-hmm. Not the short varieties that were bred, as you mentioned, on purpose. And it was like a kind of puzzling at that point of time, because just like in commercial production, the short type varieties had really good grain yield. So we were thinking that the reason for underperformance of grain type varieties in research plots, randomized research plots, could be a shading by taller varieties. So what we do right now, we are just separating short grain type varieties in our randomization. We have blocks of short varieties and this taller dual purpose or fiber varieties. Right. So it was extremely important it was a transition stage. We had this dual purpose varieties, which as a matter of fact, they were bred as in other jurisdictions. For example, X59 in the Soviet Union or in Russia were just like a fiber type varieties. They serve as a source of fiber. At the same time, because of this compacted seed head, not shelling, not shattering, so they perform really well as grain varieties. So I want to mention that that's what we revealed, or what our studies documented, was taken by the industry. And when growers were asking me, so I want to grow for grain, at the same time I have buyers for my fiber, or just I want to have it. This dual purpose varieties and the outcomes of our research were really supportive. Now, it was 3-4 years ago. Now we are moving to the next stage. And we are just in the last 2 years, it's where true fiber type varieties, tall and very tall varieties that offer even more straw and eventually fiber compared to this dual purpose varieties. Now they are in high demand. Why? Because here in Alberta, in particular here in Alberta, we are just like having fiber processing facility established, or some are already in operation. And I can tell you just that next year, and mark my words, next year we will be having at least 3 fiber processing facilities in the province. Remember, just like our studies on this tall and very tall varieties like Silesia, for example, just like now these varieties are finding finally after the
finally getting home.
Yes, finding and there is a rapidly increasing need for acres of this typical fiber type varieties, to the point that I have some clients who want to badly have just one operator, at least 10,000 acres of typical fiber type variety or varieties seeded in Alberta this year, 2021.
I'm excited about that, Jan, because I remember some of our early meetings. There was supposed to be a fiber plant here in Lethbridge outside of town, and for whatever reason it's fallen apart. So I've experienced part of your roller coaster ride in hemp, but as all new crops, it's sort of up and down, and we increase demand. But those fiber plants, they're always a highlight on our tours, right? Like under irrigation, we're getting 14-foot tall plants, and it's just like you're walking into another world. And it's a great way to get people excited about agriculture and the novel work that we do together on it. And our first study too, we did nitrogen on biomass, and I've never seen a bar chart in the field like that Salacia. So as we added every 20 pounds of nitrogen, it literally grew another foot. And so I think all of those agronomy packages that we put together are going to come in good use now that folks are actually growing them.
Absolutely. And you made a very good point. Just like in early years, I've heard, and perhaps you can still find on the internet, that hemp is a miraculous crop, doesn't require fertilizer, doesn't require pesticides, can be grown on any type of soil. It doesn't require irrigation, drought resistant, such claims. Well, I would say yes, but don't expect to get a crop. You will get some plants struggling to grow. So to your point, just like yes, absolutely, depends on usage type. That's what our studies reveal. Depends on usage type. If you have just fiber type varieties, you have to just to get fiber yield, you have to provide inputs. There's no miracles.
It's incredibly responsive. I was very impressed.
Absolutely. So this it was like a demystifying this crop that just can grow without resources. So this is extremely important. And I will just like interject one just two sentences about your comment about this fiber processing facility in Chin, Alberta. This company that, as you know, just like came from England. They were pioneers. They were 8 years ago in here, and they were paving the path to where we are now. They were they were pioneers who, and hemp industry in Alberta was not mature enough to meet their needs. So if they would come right now, they would succeed. But I just like I recognize them for what they did to our Alberta industry growers, regulators, because they were speaking to the government and educating about this great opportunity of industrial hemp. And they paid a hefty price. They disappeared, went belly up. However, now we are just like benefiting from what they have done.
Mm-hmm. So we got through that first 3 years of a project, and we were lucky enough to get another 3-year project, and we finished 2 years now. And this was sort of our Hemp 2.0. And in the middle of all this is when the legislation's changed and CBD came into effect as another potential end market. And my experience on the agronomy, we're adding more layers to the agronomy. So we're doing different split applications of nitrogen. We're looking at seeding rates and seeding dates, and we even have a project just in Lethbridge where we're using a planter to do precision planting with it. So kind of tweaking the agronomy at the middle of all this. It seems like the CBD market has exploded, and it almost seems like it's the Wild West as far as hemp production is concerned. We've got people that have come in from all different places, and they're growing. They don't even know what they're doing, but they're growing this crop for this promise of green gold, like you called it in the past. But so maybe let's switch gears and talk about what's been happening in the last couple of years.
Oh, that's a really great point. And Ken, thank you for asking this question, because our conversation wouldn't be complete without tackling this CBD issue. But mind you, CBD is like to me is a synonym of non-narcotic minor cannabinoids as opposed to THC. CBD is the one, but just like other cannabinoids of having medicinal potential like CBN, CBG, and very many others.
So lots of pharmaceutical opportunities with this product.
Yes, absolutely. And we are talking about pharmaceutical. So CBD, 2018, as I said, farmers could harvest whole crop, including hemp for flowers for CBD, right? At that time, 3 years ago, we didn't have high CBD varieties. Actually, we had 3 varieties on the list of approved cultivars. So the varieties that can be legally grown in Canada. So they were just like a European fiber type varieties, very late maturing, very tall. Carmagnola seleccionata, commonly known as CS, and the other was Hungarian variety Compolti. So I remember, Ken, when 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I was offered 20 pounds, 25 pounds sack of one of these Italian varieties for $5,000.
Nice.
Very nice and very affordable. So, again, these varieties are tall. They were meant for fiber production in different soil and climatic zones of Central and Southern Europe. They had or have or just they promised 10 to up to 25% of CBD. Mind you, our studies that we conducted, including your Lethbridge site and Falaise site, we shown that in this grain type varieties or varieties, common Canadian varieties, CBD levels were between 1 and 2.5. The highest that I found in our studies was 3.5% of
3.5%, and they're claiming 25.
Well, just like our Canadian varieties typically have between 1 and 2%.
Okay.
So this Italian and Hungarian varieties, they promised to up to 25%. So that's why it was this $5,000 for a bag of.
And that was still with the low THC. This isn't a.
They were still absolutely. That's why they are on the list of approved cultivars for Canada. So the problem was then when we started growing these varieties and farmers were growing these varieties, again, Italian Carmagnola selezionata, and Hungarian Compolti, the real CBD levels on these varieties that offered or promised extremely high levels, 10 times more of CBD, were between 1 and 3%. I spoke to quite a few farmers in 2018 in Saskatchewan, and they were grossly disappointed. My studies at the Vegreville site, absolutely late maturing, small flower heads, just like and typically just like not exceeding 5%. However, I can tell you that in 2020, we had among these three varieties, we had over 1,000 acres seeded in Canada to these varieties, this supposedly high CBD varieties. Yes, some growers reported that they were just getting high CBD. High means 5-6% of CBD, not the promised 25%. Some growers told me that they mastered the operations on this so-called low CBD varieties, like grain type varieties allowed for cultivation in Canada, and they were getting in the neighborhood of 4%. But this is still not what processors, flower processors want to get. They want to get this consistently 10-12% of CBD. So as of last year, we have a variety, again, registered in Canada and allowed for cultivation in Canada, called CBF1, which offers this high CBD levels. And this is not, and Ken, this is what we will be doing, this type of agronomy studies that we have to put forward and what we will be doing.
That will need to be the next frontier of our studies, is to focus on CBD production. Is that right?
No, this is totally different crop management. While this Italian and Hungarian varieties, again, they were bred for fiber. They were like Silesia, just like regular hemp varieties, single stem and flower heads. The CBD varieties, they have different, vastly different morphology. They look like Christmas trees. So they are bushy, and they produce very many secondary branches with flower heads. Moreover, all these high CBD varieties are so-called grown from feminized seeds, so they don't grow male plants or male flowers. So it's pretty much you have only just like these plants will be growing buds rich in CBD. Mm-hmm. However, I said about crop management. They are just grown. You mentioned that you're just doing this planting. They are planting in the orchard style. So typically, what is done south of the border, they are just quite often seedlings are grown in the greenhouse and then transplanted like vegetables, transplanted every, I don't know, just 2-3 feet apart with rows.
Well, that explains all the calls that I've been getting on the precision planter. I know in the States, they've had a lot of calls that folks that are looking because of this expensive seed that you were talking about too.
Absolutely.
So trying to spread out big distances and make the most out of that.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying, that we are just like, we have to look for a new agronomy. All agronomy parameters will have to be optimized and studied for these varieties. So I said about CBF1 that is already available, but it is again has the same problems as the three other varieties that I mentioned, this Italian and Hungarian. It is very late maturing, so it's not good for the prairies. It is recommended for interior BC or the lower Delta and southern Ontario. The good news is that the same company actually is Tritium 3H out of Lethbridge. Imagine. Yeah. They have in the pipeline that hopefully will be available and allowed for by Health Canada for the 2021 season. They have early maturing, same style, Christmas tree style varieties that are early maturing, and they will be more suitable for cultivation across the prairies. So that's a big deal and great opportunity and a need to develop crop management,
agronomy practices for the CBD.
Absolutely.
I think it's important that farmers understand that despite the fact that we've been working on this hemp idea for many, many years, the CBD production is very new. And the farmers are coming out there and trying to grow it. They're doing it without any good knowledge, and sometimes they're getting burned. And I've heard of a lot of stories where farmers were getting burned on these promises of great rewards, but it's also great risk. That's why I called it sort of the Wild West right now with CBD production. And ironically, the project that you and I are working on, this last project that was funded by CAP, the Canadian Agriculture Partnership, originally we were hoping to test CBD in the variety trials, but for whatever reason, we were not allowed to do that. And so that means, again, even though we'll finish another cycle of hemp 2.0, we need a hemp 3.0, and it's going to be focused on CBD.
Yes, absolutely. And see, and this is you described this really nicely. So we are just offering agronomic solutions as the hemp industry evolves, right? From grain only, then fiber, the dual purpose, then fiber, and now CBD. So and we are just providing, or just like prepared to provide this services, information, agronomic information, and optimized agronomy packages for different.
For agronomy, it's very exciting. I think it's just one of those things that I think you've said it too, cautionary tale to farmers. I see tremendous potential for fiber and grain. I don't really fully understand the market for CBD. Is it really as big as everyone thinks it can be? And I expect some growth, but is it really something that's going to provide a lot of option for farmers across Alberta, or is it going to be a limited market?
It is a very good question. And to answer this question, I will ask you, you're just closer to the US border than I am. So I am 450 kilometers away from you in Vegreville. So what happened in the States, 5 years ago, they had just like a few acres, figuratively speaking, of industrial hemp. Last 3 years, they started growing 2 years ago. I believe in 2018, 19, 18, 20. So 18 or 19, they got 500,000 acres of hemp. They outnumber our acres, Canadian acres. Why?
All of a sudden.
Because there's 500,000 acres, not licensed acres. Not all were grown, but it tells you the magnitude of the attempted production. 95% or 99% was grown not for grain like in Canada, but was grown for CBD. Mm-hmm. So and the next year, and the first year, oh my gosh, just like and they got in the States, they got this varieties with elevated levels of CBD, indeed between 5 and 8, 10, 9%. So they had the right genetics that we couldn't have and still cannot have in Canada. Hopefully this year it will be a different story. So they were producing this flowers. They were producing flowers, and then what? I told, and I spoke, I was invited to very many presentations, to give presentations in the States. And I said, putting seeds in the ground and growing is the easiest part. Then sell it and process it is a different story. So it was flower market for CBD was saturated, overloaded with a product that was never sold. Just prior to COVID, I was in Montana, across the border, and they told me, we're just driving by, and I saw a really nice warehouse. And yeah, it used to be McCain facility, but now it's full of flowers, CBD flowers, and a farmer who was promised $20,000 return per acre, just cannot sell anything. So very many, and perhaps you've heard these stories, that quite a few people, farmers just committed suicides because they put all this money or resources in the CBD basket because they were just like offered or promised, just like this unrealistic returns. So, and the next year, US again, 400,000 acres for CBD, simply production processing facilities not out there, and don't expect $20,000 per acre return when you have overproduction, oversupply of feedstock. So for a lesson learned for our Canadian farmers, yes, we have to be very cautious, and I recommend developing this industry, and that's what is happening slowly. See, the difference between us Canadians and the Yankees is once they just sensed this opportunity, they jumped and put all resources. We are just like moving slowly but surely. So that's why some might consider this as just like we are not as go-getters as they are. However, in this particular case, it is beneficial to us. So it means that it will be opportunity, but only for those who, farmers and just entire value chain, those who embrace it and understand it's not a silver bullet. It's or just like it is a crop, or just like a opportunity as any others. And last sentence on this, I know that there's quite a few growers here on the prairies that they are vertically integrated. So they are just growing their crop, and they have their processing facilities integrated with their in one operation. We are talking about growers who will be just like growing flowers and then hoping, or just like I always encourage or recommend that hemp is a new crop. So whenever you grow it, grow under contract, because there is just like it's not enough volume, so to speak, that there's no free market for it, and it's particularly important and sensitive for CBD.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting, and I look forward to see how the industry continues to develop. It's really fun to be part of this industry. The one thing that I wanted to talk about in addition to this, because I want to stay somewhat agronomy focused, is that originally when we started working on the hemp side of things, it was the food product, the hemp parts, that was really the driver, and those companies were doing quite well. Everybody sees the hemp hearts in Costco and so on, but the other side of it, because it was health food sort of orientated, there was a much stronger demand for organic production, and organic production still remains, one of the bigger scales of hemp. But we're starting to see, because of the fiber, because of the CBD, a desire for more conventional agronomy, things like how do we manage weeds in hemp? And yes, it's a very competitive weed, or crop, I should say. It is a weed, but on the flip side, I think we've been sort of slow to develop that piece of the agronomy package. And I know that there's starting to be a little more work in minor use registration for, say, herbicides and insecticides in hemp. And how do you see that piece of the agronomy developing in the future?
Absolutely. This is extremely important, and efforts are being made as we speak to get pesticides registered for hemp. So we have right now glyphosate and edge for pre-seed. Then we have Assure 2 for grassy weeds. Bromoxynil type products, or just bromoxynil chemistry, is right now in a process of registration for minor use. Interestingly enough, I remember 6-7 years ago, I was running herbicide sensitivity trials on different varieties of hemp, and was like, oh yeah, just bromoxynil will be just like a product will be registered anytime soon. And one of the major chemical company withdrew. Why? Because it was not enough acres at that time, and was this roller coaster acres. Now the chemical companies are just like interested in a registration of pesticides, because they see that hemp industry is stable and is growing and will be growing in the future.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So for insecticides, just like a major problem. I'm just like you remember just when I was giving this 6-7 years ago presentations, I said, well, insects are not a problem in hemp. Now I have to eat my words, because not eat my words. That was true 6-7 years ago. Right now we are seeing more and more insects as the crop is more gaining popularity and in rotations. So we are seeing Alberta army worms, and it's a big deal. And I can speak to that. I saw, well, just like a first time in my 19 years last summer, I saw infestation on some hemp plots or fields. The other is European corn borer. It's more important in, well, just like Quebec, Ontario, Atlantic Canada, and Southern Alberta, where you grow more corn, because it's also...
it will impact hemp?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So this is very interesting. I was told by an entomologist from New Brunswick that you have European corn borer and European hemp borer. Apparently, just like this, what we have right now in Canada, it jumped from initially from hemp to corn in Europe, and now is jumping back from corn to hemp. So it's a similar stem structure, right? So they like to just like penetrate and yes, exactly. So the other is from major insects. So I mentioned army worms, corn borer, just like aphids, particularly in warmer climate. Yes, absolutely. So
at the same time, we see a ton of ladybirds in there, or ladybugs eating them.
Yeah. Well, just like a biocontrol, that's really great. But I also recommend taking serious consideration. So perhaps it also will be addressed. So as I said, for corn borers and for armyworm, we have insecticides in a process of registration as minor use. For the diseases, sclerotinia is a major issue. Again, years ago was not a problem, but in warm years, humidity high humidity, particularly for a crop grown for fiber. You're growing at much higher density. Your canopy is close and dense. Conditions conducive to sclerotinia, to fungal growth, right?
Yep.
And there is
lots of susceptible crops in rotation.
And absolutely. So that's why we don't recommend growing in rotation with canola. One of the reasons is that they share the same, among others, they share the same pathogens, right? Botrytis, it's reported. Right now, it's not I would say that it's a much bigger problem at present, is sclerotinia than botrytis. Root diseases and fungal diseases that cause seedling dumping. This is really important. And we observe hemp industry that, just like a seed crop establishment is affected, although you have germination, germ test is, let's say 85%, you're seeding, making calculations based on your germ test. There's always, you're just getting much thinner stand, which is particularly important for fiber, much thinner stand that normally you would expect for other crops based on the germ test. Why? Because there is lots of, that's what we expect. And well, it's fungal diseases that affect the seeds. So why I mentioned that, because there is a need for developing or just developing, registering seed treatments. Just like when I traveled to China, Ken, it was really interesting. I couldn't recognize hemp seeds because they were blue, or red. And I said, well, what is that? Oh, this is hemp seed. So they treat in China, they treat all hemp seeds with fungicides, as we do just with other crops. Yes. And hemp, as I said, is particularly susceptible. So this research or registration has to be done and is being done. So this is what I recently recommended, that it has just for minor use registration. Seed treatments, big deal.
Yeah.
So
big deal.
Yeah.
But we still have lots of work to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. See, this is the beauty of this crop, is that it's new. It's old. It's 10,000 years ago.
Yeah.
But to grow at commercial scale and get the results that farmer would expect, this agronomy package has to be beefed up, because we still don't have it. So I'm looking forward to collaborate with you, just to work with you hand in hand. And with
sounds good. We better start working on some proposals then, hey?
Oh, that's your job. I'll
work on it. I really enjoyed the conversation, and I think I want to wrap up pretty quick here, because this is a lot of information to soak in. But the last thing that I'd like to talk about briefly is that rotational study that you've been leading, because as this crop continues to develop, how do we fit it in to our rotations in Western Canada? What are some of the key learnings that we found in that project so far, that I think it's coming close to an end, maybe 1 year left?
Yes, absolutely. So this is a really interesting, actually, this crop sequencing or crop rotation studies that we are just like executing was triggered by hemp. So what other crops you have? This new crops you have in Lethbridge. You have, I believe, dry bean.
Yeah, we've got dry bean and grain corn and quinoa and a lot of different novel crops. And I think that was the whole point, is to look at how do we fit some of these novel crops into our more standard.
Yes, absolutely. But the primary driver was hemp, because hemp, among all this quinoa and other crops,
it's the biggest novel crop potential that we have.
Biggest in terms of industry acceptance and then interest.
Really,
yeah, and which is reflected by in a number of acres. So as I said, I mentioned that what we knew in the past, when we are talking about diseases, or just like common for different crops. Of course, in just like canola is a great crop. Farmers are loving growing canola, but as a non-mycorrhizal crop causes lots of grief for other crops. So definitely, I would
grow hemp after canola.
Absolutely, don't grow hemp.
We saw that for sure. Even the volunteers from canola would cause problems in getting the hemp established.
Absolutely. So, however, just like a good news for the southern Alberta is that dry bean was like an exquisite stable to grow hemp in, and as a matter of fact, some other crops. So hemp, from our incomplete studies, but just like observations, and then what we learned to date, appreciates growing to be grown in legume stable. In our central and northern Alberta, like Falaise, faba bean that just like leaves twice as much nitrogen.
Fiber crop, I imagine, would take full advantage of any nitrogen residue as well.
Absolutely, and faba bean is the best crop in terms of leaving residual nitrogen, more than twice as much nitrogen as field peas, for example, right? So this is something that we are paying attention to. Typically, we like to. It's safe to avoid this. What we were discussing in terms of pests and diseases. It's grain stable is also safe. Safe just to get hemp seeded in. However, just like as opposed to legumes, requires more nitrogen to be provided. So now we are looking at this fine interactions between the crops, or combinations of crops. So I'm looking forward to this final report, because it will be just like a really intriguing, and will tell the growers, just what is your best bet in your particular area. As we said, you're just growing corn and field and dry bean. Which is not a crop that the farmers would be growing in the Peace Country or in central Alberta. So we are just offering this zone-specific sequencing or rotation advice, if you will.
Well, we keep adding information pieces to the puzzle, and it sounds like there's a heck of a lot more to do. So as always, I very much enjoyed talking with you, Jan, and look forward to seeing you soon. So have a great day.
Thank you.